Good morning to you all. Jeff Africa, Jeff Africa's Last Dance, and we are in the middle of reviewing a few things that I've had in the previous videos. I have two more, this review, one more, that's it. We're getting on to new stuff. But I just want to consolidate this stuff. I know some of you like it, some of you don't. But we're doing the best we can with this. It's good for me as much as anything else. Plus, as a strategy, I got to say, if someone says, Jeff, what are you doing on your videos? I can just say, go look at some of the reviews. You get an idea of what we're about. Okay, see, that's why it's important. Now, fasting. I made the commitment beginning of last year, beginning of 2023, that I was going to do 5 4-day fasts. I mean, 5 4-day fasts. That's right. And I ended up doing 4 4-day fasts and 1 3-day fast. Okay, I'm just bringing that up because fasting is a very interesting thing to do, and it is very, very helpful at this time in history as we have all these new energies and frequencies and light codes coming in. Give your body a chance to work with those and not have to digest food. It's good to know that you don't have to be shoving food into your mouth all the time. Generally speaking, fasting hasn't been that hard for me, but last time it was a little bit hard. But I consider it a challenge, but it's not for everybody. Do what you can, clean your body up. It's going to be important. If nothing else, helps keep you young. You know, your body is clean. It's not going to age as dramatically as it otherwise would. Eating all kinds of gross foods and stuff like that. And we're going to get into diet soon as we get through the reviews. We haven't even done that yet. We haven't done a lot of things yet. Okay, so look, women in sports is this. You know why women play sports? The social illusion complex tells them that's where the meaning lies. Creating a sports legacy in sports. For the highest ones, I guess, the highest performing athletes, but winning, that's where you're going to get meaning. Okay, that's where the meaning lies. If we have early on, our lives don't have much meaning. The illusion complex tells us, be good in sports. Go out there and make your mark in sports. That's going to give you meaning, okay? And you can have fun with it, but it's not going to provide you with meaning, okay? It seems like it's meaningful because everybody agrees that it's meaningful, and this whole society revolves around, to an extent, that sort of activity. But in the final analysis, there's just not a lot of meaning to be had there. There are lessons to be learned, though, in sports, and we're not going to deny that. Look at meaning. You know, meaning is not to be found in doing stuff, okay? When I go out to the lake and I do that breathing meditative routine that I've told you about that I do, and I get into that space of sort of my true wilder nature, the space of earthiness and swarthiness and body orientation, and out of that mind that is so finicky and so difficult to have to live in all the time, and you breathe and you get earth in you. When I feel that feeling, and it doesn't happen the same way all the time. In some ways, some days it's better than others. Like I say, I'm never going to lie to you about stuff. It doesn't happen the same way all the time. But when it does work the way it should work, you know the first thing I think of? Wow, this is the meaning of life here. This is life's meaning here. In this state I'm in right now, this is the meaning of life. That's what I think, okay? That's the meaning we get, the meaning we're going to receive comes in beingness, not in doingness. You know, as we get further into what we're doing here and we begin to develop the beingness of the heart, there is where we're going to find our meaning, okay? That little moment I had out there at the park last week, meaningful. This is meaningful, okay? That's where the meaning comes in breakthroughs in beingness. You understand that? Much more so than doing this, although you can fool yourself sometimes, and you can, not meaning so much, but you can occupy yourself with something positive in a sense. for a short amount of time, but when you're done, you're clunked, you're dumped out back right to where you were in a meaningless state where you started from, and it doesn't really solve anything, okay? That's why women do sports, because the illusion complex tells them that that's where meaning is going to be. You live in a meaningless state and you want to get something rolling, play sports. You'll find meaning in sports, but no. Don't really. You occupy yourself, and there'll be a little bit of satisfaction along those lines, but it's short-lived and it dissipates really, really quickly. Okay, we compete now. Well, moving on to. We don't only compete in sports. We compete in everything in society. It's ridiculous. We compete because we don't know how to love one another. So we're in our separate individual selves. We compete and vie, victor, vanquish, and we create a meaning for us in that sense. But is based on separateness, and it is no. We do it because we don't know how to love one another. Okay, so we compete against one another, and when we get into love-based unity consciousness, the competition is going to be over. Okay, we're not going to compete in that same way because, like I say, competition is the result of separateness, and the us and the other over there, and we are going to overcome them, overtake them, and we're going to feel superior because of it. You got that? Look at it. A sense of separateness is not conducive to love-based unity consciousness. Okay, so we're going to have to get over joys in competition when we get to the love-based unity consciousness of the fifth dimension. All right. When I was working in restaurants, when I was chef of restaurants, I never thought of myself as competing with anybody else. I don't really compete so much as I don't live in competition. It was just I was competing against myself, and I had a particular signature that no one can go anywhere else and get what I was offering. So in that sense, I didn't really have a competition. Really, plus, there's a couple of million people in the area, 1.5 million people. If you're in LA, there's, millions of people around. No restaurant is going to be able to serve a million people and take people away from you. All you got to do is just do a good job, and you just let the chips fall where they may. But if you do a good job with a sense of signature and the things you're creating, you're gonna do fine. You're gonna do, and you don't have to think in terms of competition. I never really did. We compete for grades. We start these days in high school. They start competing for grades and positionality and getting into college. That early. For me, I never did that. I never really thought that far ahead. I was living day to day, just getting through school, trying to have fun as much as I could. But they're bloody serious about that these days, and it is that's where all the competition starts. You're competing for everybody, all your student friends, and in other high schools also. The competition starts there, and it's difficult to create a sense of togetherness when we're always thinking on those terms. We compete for grades. The competition starts for grades. We compete for status, prestige, awards, and a sense of drama. We like the sense of drama in competition as we compete with each other. In the movies, Academy Awards, we can't just let it be that we've created a good movie. We have to measure the movie against others and come up with whoever is the best, whoever's done the best job. And it's just a ridiculous game that we won't be doing when we get into love-based unity consciousness. It's silly to try to pick one movie out of all 5 or 6 very good movies that were made that year, and we just do it. Not that it has any meaning to it. There's not a person who has a dust collecting Oscar on his shelf in his living room when he's 75, 80 years old. There's not a person who that who thinks at that point that Oscar is particularly meaningful to him. It doesn't make him any happier at that point. Okay, it doesn't. We are doing what we're doing because when we get to be 80 years old, we want to feel fulfilled and happy, and that's going to come from a being state, not anything we've garnered along the way. It's a false identity to consider things like that. When we go through college, we compete in colleges against one another for grades, and the college we go to that's going to allow us to have the best pick of all the jobs, things like that. This is something I never really did. I just never really thought of life in those terms. And my attitude is, you guys want to compete like that, you go ahead. I'm out. I'm sitting this one out. I'm not doing that. But it's a big thing in society, the way they carry on. It has to do with your livelihood and how well you're going to do making money and in this society, and that's a reality I never really copped to, and don't really care to cop to tell you the truth. I live by my own drummer. I always have. And then we get into the workplace, and we compete for positionality and power within the corporation. Who is doing the best job? Who garners the attention of the upper management? Always in one form of competition or another, keeping us separate, us and you, and we're competing, and there's drama there and tension there, and it is a senseless nonsense, and it's contra to the idea of love and love-based consciousness and heart-centered beingness. Okay, all that competition keeps us in our heads and away from a more grand sense of reality in a heart, as we here are going to experience when we get into our hearts. And just set all that stuff aside. There's no room for me in corporations anyway. I'm just the type of character where there's just simply no room for me in a corporate setting. I just don't fit in the corporate setting, and I have no problem with that at all. If I had to make a little bit less money with my life, then that's what it's going to be. But being successful in that sense never meant a thing to me, and I am just out of that game, and I am happy that I'm out of that game. We compete for in our relationships. Even when we get into relationships, there's a subtle competition there as we move forward. I think we do fall in love, but that dissipates and turns into an interpersonal dynamic situation fairly quickly. And we compete in relationships. People are competing because guys think they have to be the man in charge. They think that so because they think that's what the woman wants. In a way, that's true. Women this day and age don't want to take shit. They don't want to be so they're trying to have their say, and that's fine. But it becomes sort of a competitive interpersonal dynamic. We compete when we argue with our spouse. We want to be right. They have to be wrong. In the mentality that we have going in this mind-oriented, ego-driven thing and mind reality that we have, and we have to feel as though we're the winner in an argument and best our partner, so they love us because they respect us because we're so smart. That whole thing, fluffing our egos up, things like that. So we get into arguments, and it becomes a competition also. And I guess perhaps there's always going to be a little bit of that going on, but it is really part and parcel of our inability to truly love, or even to come to a relationship from an expanded a sense of love that we have for all of humanity and all of life, and deep sense of love for ourselves. A lot of that time, we're not going to be able to replace not loving ourselves by getting love from a partner or being able to love a partner, because it's not going to work that way. It's not going to fulfill us if we don't love ourselves completely, and we don't fall in love really with life in general. A love relationship in that personal sense is going to be more difficult than it needs to be. And I want the person I fall in love with, I want that to be part and parcel of a grander experience of love, the true experience of love of all of life. Love myself completely, and be in love with all of life. And then as you step into some sort of relationship from that perspective, that is much more satisfying, and you avoid all the intricate pitfalls of people being stuck in their psychology, and the intricacies of being in that mind state, that loveless, more or less mind state. Love in a relationship becomes much more difficult from that perspective, much easier from a sense of expansive love that you have for all of life, which is what we're after here. That's what we're going to get when we get to the heart center, the heart reality. Got that? That's nice stuff. Ideological competitions in universities. We think of black and white. That I'm all right about you're all wrong, and politics, the same thing. We think black and white terms, you know what I mean? Some of these departments in these universities vie for each other in their particular theory that they are correct, and your theory is, and that's how they get their prestige and status and respect from others, is being the right one, coming up with the right theory, that whole thing, and all other theories take a backseat situation. So there's all that kind of black and white ideological competition, and that's all mind centered stuff that comes from being a mind-centered human being, all that sort of stuff. And it's going to be much nicer when we become a heart-centered being. All those things are going to fall by the wayside. You know what I mean? And it's also going to be much nicer when we know that personal development is much more important than developing ideologies at some point, and our personal expansion journey, and our journey into better and better ways of beingness, a higher vibration, our vibrational increase in beingness. These are the things that are most important, not ideological battles or even coming up with ideologies. We'll discuss that as we go along in this final review next week. I personally now, and I think we should all refuse to compete. I refuse to compete in life anymore. Okay, let's just say that. We refuse to compete. Okay, I don't want to compete. I don't want to defend myself. I refuse to defend myself anymore. You want to think something about me? Go ahead and do it. I'm not going to try to defend argue and defend myself. If someone wants to feel or think of me in a certain way, go ahead. You have at it. I don't care. But I'm not going to defend myself to you all the time. That's what's another thing that keeps us separate and keeps us in our mind. You got it? Politics. We have very extremely polarized politics these days, black and white. The leftists think they're all correct, and the right people on the right are all wrong, vice versa. And it is you begin to hate the other side because they don't think like you think, and that's another thing that keeps us bickering and fighting and separate and counterproductive to us moving forward, joining hands and moving forward. I gave the example of the Down syndrome competition they had, that they started the race, the 50-yard line, 100-yard dash. One falls down. He starts crying. The rest stop. They turn. They went back. They lifted that guy up. They all joined hands and they crossed that finish line together. And what a lesson! And leave it to the Downs kids to teach us that lesson, that there are things more important than winning. Okay, and competing and being right. and having the right political philosophy, all those types of things. Looking at politics as it is going today, it's like a cat on top of a pinball machine, watching that ball go around, from side to side, totally focused on that ball. And that's what the politics is these days. And that's another thing that keeps our attention trapped in our heads, our attention trapped outward. And I am personally recommending to you, and then the mass media exaggerates the forces involved and how we're pitted against one another. The mass media is no help whatsoever. They keep that alive and keep that going, the sense of we're right and they're all wrong, and they inflame that whole thing. And that's another thing that keeps us in our head and away from our heart. So I am recommending to you that just step out of politics. Just be an observer of the goings on. You got to have some kind of news. I don't watch mainstream media, but you got to kind of get some sort of idea of what's going on. But I'm recommending step out of politics, okay? And just observe what's going on, but don't get overly involved in the drama and emotionally involved in the drama. Just observe what's happening and be okay. Be okay with whatever happens. Just be okay with it. Don't take it too seriously. That is going to assist us in to become a heart-centered human being, a better human being, especially this day and age with the politics that have become so polarized and screwy, basically, okay? It's just keeping us fighting. It's another way we just keep fighting and butting heads. What's more important to Mother Earth right now is not the win of any particular political argument or side. It's that we start to get along with one another. That's what she wants. Okay, that's the energy we need to start to promote. A camaraderie, a kinship, a brotherhood of humanity, all joining hands and figuring these things out together, realizing that the right isn't all right and or all wrong, the left isn't all right or all wrong. There are areas that we can blend together and cooperate and get some real things done. There's nothing getting done here. That's just says like the cat, like I say, a cat on top of a thing watching a pinball, but nothing ever really gets done because we're so stupidly polarized. We need middle-of-the-road problem solvers in Congress right now that aren't particularly ideologically involved. They're just problem solvers and want to fix things. And let them go at it. Get all the ideologues out of Congress and get non-ideological problem solvers in there. And in that sense, we can start creating some solutions and fixing some problems with people that are interested in fixing problems, not in promoting their particular agenda. We don't need ideologues in Congress right now. We just don't need them. Get them out. Forget about them. They tend to think in terms of absolutism, okay? That they're all right and the other side is all wrong. Okay, and it's just immature. The people are smarter than the politicians because we're all getting really tired of that crap, and we want them to realize that they can work together, that there are things we can do, and that nobody is all right, nobody is all wrong, and the people are ahead of Congress right now, and we're all fed up with it. That it's disheartening to be overly involved, emotionally involved in that, because nothing is getting done. Okay, because of the polarization. Let's hold it right there. I'm going to have one more, and then we're going to move on to some interesting things I have lined up. So that'll be fun too. A funny thought of the day. Okay, now hold along. My drug of choice has been sativa pot. Okay, that after a tough day in the kitchen, taking a hit of pot, sativa pot was always like one of my faves. Okay, and then eventually, I didn't do it while I was working anymore. Okay, just on the weekend. Like say if I worked a tough Monday through Friday week, and I worked some hellacious weeks, and I didn't mind it necessarily, but truly, but nothing better than Saturday morning. And I was like it's like a microdose. I'd take a couple of BBs worth of pot, take a hit, then go out in public and go to a coffee shop, sit down, and just trip out on all the people, because you're in an expanded state, especially with sativa dominant pot at that point, and it's really you're just musing on all the people, and it was really quite a wonderful thing. But I could never get away with it. I had friends that could smoke a whole joint, and you couldn't tell they were stoned. I don't know, but I took a small amount, and everybody seemed to know I couldn't get away with it. Everybody would seem to know, oh, that guy's, the kids were going by going, look, mommy, that man's stoned. They would even know it. So I couldn't really get away with it. This pisses me off. So then what do? Then you pray. You pray to God. You go, look at God. Look, I just want to get a little stoned every once in a while, and I don't want everybody to know it. Okay, so do you think we can make some progress on that? Okay, I think we could probably make that work, couldn't we? I just want to get a little stoned, and I don't want everybody pointing their fingers at me. And I think we can do that, huh? See, that's what you do. You pray. That's what prayer is all about, But that's just a funny thought of the day, and it was amazing how like I say, everybody knew. Okay, so that's it. My name is Jeff Africa, citizen of birth, loyal patriot of the United States of America. I stand unafraid. And these four, Mother Earth, Divine Mother, Paramahansa Yogananda, and Jesua Ben Joseph, I've chosen these four. And Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene are my bench. They're my tribe. And they are all helping me get to where I want to go. And you're going to watch me get from my head. Right now you can tell the way I'm talking from my head. One day that's going to change, and I'm going to slow it down, and I'm going to talk slower and richer and more meaningful, and you're going to know that Jeff Africa has created a new life for himself. A fall to the heart. Becoming a heart-centered human being is the beginning of everything. Okay, you begin to live all these highfalutin words that we throw around so much in our heads. You begin to live forgiveness. You begin to live surrender. You live acceptance. You live allowance. You live non-resistance. And that's when it all begins. Okay, when these words become alive and you begin to live their energy. It becomes a whole new life, and it's going to be a whole new world as we get to our hearts and exemplify and model that this love-based, heart-centered world and beingness for the world around us. Okay, that's what we're after here, and that's what we're going to do. All right, bye.